Day 3 comes, and that was the night of our vice presidential pick, Tim Walz, which at this point right now seems to have been a home run pick for Kamala Harris. We can go back and look at all the different choices that she had, and every one of them were really good. Tim Walz was not one of those choices until like 2 weeks before she made the decision. Nobody was even thinking about Tim Walz until he started to go on TV and started just talking to the American people and talking on these interviews. And the way he formed his narrative towards MAGA and Donald Trump was the winning formula, because he is the one who started to inject that these people aren't scary. They're fucking weird. They're just weird people. And like, why do we want to associate with these weird people? And it's not because you're Republican. It's because you're weird. It's just your strange group of people. JD Vance is weird. We're going to play a clip in a moment of just how weird he is. Donald Trump is beyond weird. The whole MAGA sphere is weird. The dressing up and the boats and the flags and the hats and painting your house and painting your whole truck and your vehicle, all fucking weird. And he pointed that out with one word: weird. And it worked, and it started to resonate. And as he started to get more and more attention, Kamala Harris started paying more and more attention. And as she started paying more attention, she said, this guy might be a viable pick. And it turns out right now, things could change, but as of right now, he is a phenomenal pick. But another clip of the night, and a clip of the entire convention, was when he recognized his family, and you saw his son Gus and his reaction to his dad. Let's take a look.
And Gwen, you are my entire world, and I love you. I'm letting you in.
Now, I mean, an incredibly sweet moment where the kid's in tears and gets up and says, that's my dad. I mean, how do you not, if you have any kind of human emotions at all, not just look at that and get a little choked up and say, that is just a beautiful moment. You see how much his kids, you see how much his family loves him. But of course, what did we see the next day from some of these fucking assholes on the right? Dinesh D'Souza and Ann Coulter and so many of these other lowbrow, low-life assholes who had to make comments about this kid. And I didn't know this, but apparently the kid has some neurological issues. He's got he's a special needs kid. So, you know, on top of that, where you have these people making fun of him, you have somebody making fun of somebody that has special needs. Now, here's what I will say. I didn't know it, so there's a good possibility they didn't know it. So if they didn't know it, I know Ann Coulter took her thing down. I don't know about Dinesh D'Souza. I know some of their other people took it down. Some of them apologized. But let's think about it, though. He's a kid, and you're really going to be online making fun of this kid. Now, some people will say, too, well, you people did it to Barron Trump. I don't agree with anybody that did it to Barron Trump when he was a kid. I don't agree with anybody who did it to Chelsea Clinton when she was a kid, or the Obama girls when they were girls, or the Bush girls when they were girls. That's out of bounds. That's garbage bullshit. No matter who does it, when they do it, it's all fucking garbage. And if you're online and you're that bad and terrible of a human being, where you're going to make fun of a kid, regardless of you know whether or not he has some sort of condition, if you're on there making fun of the kid, then you're just a piece of shit. You're just a terrible, awful piece of shit, publicly making fun of these kids online. But, you know, that's what, unfortunately, the kind of politics that we have seen these days. And I'm not saying that everybody, I'm not saying the right, left, Democrats, all this stuff. I will say that I do see it a lot more on the MAGA side. If you're asking me, I do believe that. But I think it's just, it's a terrible thing. And I really wish that we had not gotten to this point, but here we are, and something tells me that that's not going away. But anyway, here's one more clip of Vice President candidate Walz. He is basically laying out who he is. And I asked this to Lana last week. If you just heard the words coming out of his mouth of who he is, you would have never guessed that he was a Democrat. And this is, again, why it's such a great pick, because he not only resonates with the Democratic side where he cares about all people. He doesn't demonize people for who they are and who they love. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. In fact, he is a man who steps up and he defends the marginalized communities. That's what a man does. All this idea that being a man, if you defend somebody that's gay, you're not a man, or if you vote for a woman, you're not a man. That doesn't mean you're not a man. That means you have mental issues. That means there's something wrong with you in your head, that you can't equate voting for a woman and being a man at the same time. That's bizarre. That's very strange. And there's therapists, and there are people you could go out and talk to seek help for that kind of nonsense. But here he is explaining sort of a rundown of who he is and, why he can resonate with all kinds of people.
I know guns. I'm a veteran. I'm a hunter. And I was a better shot than most Republicans in Congress, and I got the trophies to prove it.
Now, who would have ever thought at a Democratic National Convention you'd have somebody on the stage bragging that they could shoot better than other Republicans? I mean, and again, this goes to the idea, too, that those people in that room, you could hear them. In fact, look at the little thing below. Cheers and applause. People are cheering and applauding it. Nobody in that room is coming for your guns. Nobody wants to strip you of your rights to own a gun. Nobody, if you're a hunter, you can have your gun. If you want to protect your home and your children, you can have your gun. 80% of fucking Americans say, hey, you know what? I think it would be a good idea to have some sensible background checks. Oh, no. If we start there, that's where it starts. Then all our guns are being taken away. I can assure you, let me just say it, as a Democrat, if somebody comes in and says, we're taking all your guns, I promise you, I will change my party affiliation. You can keep this and say, we are now taking all your guns. We got to the point where we want to get to. I will officially change my party affiliation, probably to independent. I don't know if I could ever be Republican if they continue on this path, but I will change it to independent. If there's ever a time while I am doing this podcast, hopefully it's for years. And if not, I'll give you email addresses. You could still continue to email me and hold me to my word. If Democrats finally get to a place where all your guns are going to be confiscated, I will 100% change my party affiliation to independent. You have my absolute word on that. But let me give you a little bit of a spoiler here. Not happening. It will never happen. It was never going to happen. There's never been plans for it to happen. But what we want sensible gun laws so your child doesn't get shot in the fucking face and dies because of these nuts who continue to get their hands on these guns. Is it going to completely stop it? No. But if it slows it down in any way, to me, that makes sense. Let's get back to eventual Vice President Walz.
But I'm also a dad. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I also believe our first responsibility is to keep our kids safe.
And finally, this is Governor Walz, and this has been his motto. This has kind of been a motto of mine too, I got to admit. But let's listen to what he has to hear, or let's listen to what he has to say, and we'll talk about the motto.
So while other states were banning books from their schools, we were banishing hunger from ours. We also protected reproductive freedom because in Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and the personal choices they make. And even if we wouldn't make those same choices for ourselves, we've got a golden rule. Mind your own damn business.
Yeah, mind your own damn business. I've been saying that for years. I mean, I think life's a lot easier if you mind your own damn business on things that have zero effect on you. Somebody that says, I want to be a man and I want to transition into a woman has no effect on you. You can pretend like it does. Well, what about my daughter? And he wants to play her sport and takes her spot on the team. First of all, again, you can anecdotally find some cases, maybe one, a handful of them. This is not a issue that is rampant throughout our country. And I think I might not be mistaken, but one day to the next, who is frequently in my comments, and I welcome him and I appreciate his participation in the show and I appreciate his participation in the comments. Gives me cases and says, well, if people are talking about it, then it must be true. Well, and forgive me if I'm wrong and I said anything wrong, please correct me. But people are talking about it because you have a propaganda machine who knows how to get people to talk about things that just aren't happening, like men playing in women's sports. Yeah, I know you could find one or two where a transitional man goes into a women's sport and plays some fucking basketball on a high school team. But it is not something that is rampant. And the other thing is, too, they're going to try to get me to believe that there are these huge Hulk Hogan type men, and they are now in boxing and UFC against these women and just beating the shit out of them. This is not happening. Again, show me proof where this is something where it is rampant throughout the country. Because if it is, again, I will pledge again, I will promise you that I will, if you're telling, and also show me too where Democrats are in charge of making rules where men are participating in women's sports and especially boxing and UFC, and they're beating up women and allowing this to happen. And this is because of the Democrats. Show this to me, and I am happy to change my party affiliation to independent. I will do that if you show it to me and prove it to me instead of just saying nonsense and showing me, one anecdotal thing. I'm talking about something where we have mass shootings in this country and it is an epidemic where we see it all the time. And that's why we need to maybe implement some laws to help stop that. But I'm happy to see where there's this rampant thing where men are playing in women's sports and they're doing it because they transition from a man into a woman. I'm happy to look at that as well, if you don't mind, giving that to me. So